because I was being stalked by another skateboarder. I was walking down the road. They're everywhere here. Yeah, it's funny, I should be quite excited about the trip coming up, but there's so many organisational things I have to do beforehand. I've got most of the big stuff out of the way. The biggest thing is to get the visas done, and that's all done now. I've gone with two different lots of visas. One was the 3 monthly, which would have actually covered me for my whole time in Vietnam, but I decided that I want to do that side trip to Thailand, and you don't need a visa for Thailand at least, but because I'm returning to Vietnam, I needed to get a visa, an e-visa for re-entry into the country for that another 20 days, because you can get them for up to a month, so that works out well. So it's actually, believe it or not, it's actually cheaper to do it that way than to get a multiple entry 3-month visa. It's a bit crazy. It shouldn't be like that, but that's the way it is. So, and e-visas are less inconvenient anyway, because once I've got that piece of paper, which I have now got, I just flash it to the passport officer when I turn up to the airport, and then I'll just stamp my passport. That's it. It's no need to go to the other counter for visa on arrival. It's a much simpler process. I just wish they'd also instituted it for 3-month visas as well. But it's all sorted now. I've got all the paperwork done. Got nearly all my accommodation sorted. Don't want to get it all done, because I'll just right near the end of the trip. I mean, it's another 3 months or so. I don't really need to get everything sorted, but I've got most of it done. So. And I got myself that very cheap room in Saigon. Went through Airbnb, and fingers crossed it will be okay. I doubt whether I'll get cleaning in the room at any stage. That's one of the downsides, so I might have to employ someone to come in and just periodically clean every couple of weeks maybe. But I might be wrong there. Normally you wouldn't have cleaning though. So that's where the service departments are great in Saigon. But it's in a great area anyway. I know the area well. The building's new. The aircon might be a little underpowered according to reviewers, but that's about the only issue, I'd say. No one's complained about noise, and that's a good sign. Well, I just spent marginally less than what I was planning on doing, because I was forced to have to use the auto checkout, because they didn't have the express lane open, even though it was very busy today. So I think it's very poor management by Coles. I know that's one advantage of Woolworths. You always have an express checkout open, so that is a bonus for them. I was going to buy some spuds, but I didn't know, there didn't seem to be any provision for weighing them, so I just left them on the side, so they lost out on that. So it cost them a little bit of a spend on my a very meagre amount admittedly, but it just shows you that there are consequences for that sort of thing. And also apparently people do diddle the system as well. But I got the essentials. I really needed tomato paste. It's the main thing, because I've got some left over from when I left, but it was like 3 months ago, so it looks okay. There's no mould on it, but you know, I think it's better to be safe than sorry. So I decided not to go with that. I'll throw it out, and I'll get a fresh jar of tomato paste. It's only $1.25 anyway. So, but seeing I'd opened the other one and been in the fridge so long, you just don't know. It's not worth the risk. I presume it was a backpacker guy was asking me why I was talking into my camera, and I told him it was a YouTube channel. And I think he was European himself, I think, and I told him I went to Spain. It's a long journey. And how small Cairns is, and it really is. It's a country town still, big country town, but still with advantages and disadvantages. The Aussie dollar took another hit, which is just what you don't want before you travel overseas. The employment numbers were slightly down, so the currency market panicked. They probably figured because of that, the way how stupidity of our Reserve Bank, they're going to drop interest rates yet again, even though it'll just do more harm than good. It'll destroy people's savings. I don't know where banks banks expect money to be deposited into them if people are getting no returns. You know, it's almost at the stage you have to buy things like precious metals to retain value, and that's obviously there's a risk involved with that. But you know, it's making it very difficult. I mean, the stock market's the other option, and I think people are going to that. And of course, real estate, and we've just had this ridiculous real estate boom, but the Reserve Bank seems to be hell-bent on fanning the flames, and it's just allocating money into non-productive parts of the economy. It's not smart. But there's not many smart people in Canberra. They're making some terrible decisions, and common sense has just basically taken a holiday, unfortunately. So it's always refreshing to go overseas. It's nice to go to a place like Vietnam. I mean, they've got their own problems, but I don't have to listen to them, and they don't have to worry about the niceties like elections. It's just very much a command economy with major industries anyway, but I don't know. They're obviously very entrepreneurial on the ground though. The average Vietnamese is a very entrepreneurial person, so it's an interesting dichotomy. But exciting place to be. A lot of energy because it's such a young country. And yeah, I like Ho Chi Minh. I'm going to look forward to going back there. But, and of course the bars. More Europeans. I noticed, I think there's seems to be a lot of Italians coming here too. I know there's a lot of Germans, but I've noticed a few Italian accents of recent times. Anyway, I'll do this video again as a walk and talk. I feel more comfortable doing walk and talks rather than shooting to camera when it's on the tripod, especially if I'm doing politics. I'll probably try to avoid that subject as much as I can. Just talk about life as an old fart travelling around the world might be better. At least the flight won't be a big hassle. I mean, 2 4.5 hour flights is a lot easier to digest than having to fly in the opposite direction down to Sydney or Melbourne and then get like a marathon 8.5 hour flight. The only hassle will be Dempsey, you know, going through immigration and what have you. It shouldn't be a major hassle. It's just it's a very crowded, chaotic type of airport, but it's not the worst I've come across in Italy. And I think Stansted in London be one of the worst. Leonardo da Vinci Airport in Rome was absolute chaos. So there are worse ones, and Melbourne's had its moments, that's for sure. All right, it's Monday. 8 more nights to go before I head off overseas once more. So getting to the business end now. Another spectacular day here. It's been great weather. There's still a breeze, of course, can't avoid the breeze, but there hasn't been any rain for weeks. It's been very dry. Actually, I can't recall it raining since I've come back now. This particular time I'm here for only about 5 weeks in total, which I've actually quite enjoyed. It makes me, this is sort of a lifestyle I could get used to, you know, just popping in here. Although my overall plan is really looking now at possibly renovating when I get back, so I can make my flat available for rental later this year. Or later next year, I should say. That's my ultimate plan, because if I can do that, then I can look at really spending a lot more time in a place like Vietnam, maybe getting a 6-month lease on a place. That's a definite possibility. Much easier to do than if I'm only there for 3 months. It seems to be the minimum leasing period that you can get a place for, and of course you do get it cheaper when you do that as well. So that's another option, although the advantage of doing it the way I'm doing right now is I've got a flexibility with places I stay at. If you pick the one place to stay at, you're pretty well stuck there, you know, and if you do want to go and do side trips, you're paying double. So there is something to be said for maybe just getting casual bookings and what have you. So it's a balancing act. So I'm not quite sure what the best is. I'm heading off at the moment to off to Woolworths. Not happy with Woolworths because they're using Adam Goods in their advertising, and I find he's a very divisive character, very politically correct, social justice warrior type, and loves playing the victim card, and I don't like that. And I certainly don't think he represents most Aboriginals. There's a diversity of opinion amongst that group, that's for sure. So, like I say, a guy who's had so many opportunities in this country, made a lot of money, become a high-profile personality, and should be very happy he's here. He still gripes a lot, and I don't like that. And he can still feel he's a victim, and get victimised by a little girl at the footy years ago. I still can't forget that incident. I think it's just disgraceful the way he pointed the finger at this little girl, and on I think fairly dubious grounds. But anyway, that's all by the by. So, but in spite of that, I'm still going to shop at Woolworths because I'm a cheapskate, and they've got the I've heard about Herbert Adams meat pies on special. Quite a good special actually. I think they're $5, and the prices kept creeping up, and you probably noticed that with many food items, and it's going to get worse because of the drought. It's going to be really bad, but it brings to mind political correctness and the social justice warriors who seem to inhabit a lot of marketing departments in corporations in Australia and the States. In the United States, the latest one is the company produces Sprint, which I think is sort of like lemonade over there. Well, we think we do have it here, Sprite, Sprite, S-P-R-I-T-E. We do have it here, I think, and it's like a lemonade, I think. I never really drink it, so I wouldn't know. But they made an ad, apparently, which was just extolling the virtues of social justice. Well, actually, it was the LGBT stuff, all that. And apparently had no reference to the product, to the Sprite product, no reference at all. It was just a feel-good thing about inclusivity with people of different sexual persuasions and whatever. I don't know how marketing's got to this stage where now they feel as though it's not about selling a product anymore. It's not about making money. It's about social engineering and sending a message. I mean, it's worse with the banks because they're mobs like Chase Manhattan Bank in the US is actually refusing conservatives to actually hold their money, and simply on the grounds of their politics. It's just absolutely ridiculous. Gone to the good old days when it used to be all greed, which can be a horrible thing, but at least it knows it's got colourblind at least, and doesn't care about your political affiliations. In the past it was just about making money out of anybody they could. In a way it's a pure capitalist thing, but it's actually non-prejudicial. And of course it can be very nasty. I mean, an example I think with banks is the horrendous interest rates they charge on credit cards, which I never pay because I always pay the bloody card off. But there are many people in Australia who can't afford to do that, and they get screwed. And I know some of them, and I think, yeah, it's rough. But at least with banks in the past, you could at least count on the fact that they didn't care about politics or the colour of your skin or whatever. But whatever. But now they seem to be having prejudices. So I think that's just a really worrying trend, and hopefully it'll be nipped in the bud. I think a lot of this insanity that's taking place now is temporary. I think we'll look back in a few years and look at this as a crazy period, similar in a way the way we looked at the 60s and the 70s are quite violent and tumultuous times, and things calmed down after that. And I think the same thing will happen here. That there's also a prediction that the electorate will become more conservative simply because the people who are coupling up and having kids are the more conservative people in society. So, and they're their children will also follow suit. So therefore, for the homegrown population, they're going to be more and more conservative as time goes on. That's the prediction. So it could be really hard for the Liberals to continue on the way they're going. And I think there's a backlash anyway. I think the post-millennial generation have become more conservative as a consequence. Just because they like to buck the system. It's just typical if you're younger. You don't want to go with the flow. You want to perceive yourself as a bit of a radical, and the default position right at the moment is these authoritarian Liberals, which is a weird mix. Anyway, that's I don't have to worry about all that crap when I'm overseas. Certainly not in a place like Vietnam, or pretty well anywhere in Southeast Asia. These issues just aren't as high up on the agenda, and it's refreshing. So I do enjoy going over there to get away from the madness in this country and elsewhere in the West. It's good. It just shows you the world can be relatively sane at times. Please consider subscribing to my channel if you think there's anything there of use to you, or entertainment or whatever. And either do that or give me a thumbs up, or if you're feeling really energetic, do both. That'd be great. But please don't ignore me. That's the worst thing you can do on YouTube, is be ignored.